Ven finds himself in tough company. Our strange little alien fox hero thing is perfectly capable of jumping gaps and whacking critters alongside the best of them, but has to reckon with the inevitable comparisons to two very special VR games, Moss and Astro Bot. The former showed us a new level of companionship and connection made possible in VR, while the latter's desire to surprise at every turn resulted in a brilliantly fresh experience. Monologic Games' admirable debut definitely has flashes of that magic, but ultimately lands on a far more routine approach to 3D platforming. What Ven might lack in identity though, it goes some way to making up by simply being a joy to play. Ven is, at its heart, a tight, precise experience with lavish production, all enhanced, if not defined, by VR. Story is superficial here, which is fortunate given rather rough English translations, but sees you teaming up with Ven after his planet is invaded by the evil and fantastically named Bruce Nelson, a mad scientist in search of immortality.
It's not over yet.
That's all the setup you need for Ven's core campaign of 12 levels that start off with gentle simplicity, before descending into twists, a few bosses, and a surprisingly devilish difficulty. While Ven might be stacked up to its VR contemporaries first and foremost, it's actually much closer to the Crash Bandicoot series than it is any of its current rivals. You have a basic moveset of jumping, a standard ground attack, and a stronger aerial ground pound to get you through levels where you'll smash through crates and scour scenes for tiny alien baby fox things again. It's the expected concoction of platforming elements with pleasing results. Gameplay is sharp and mostly responsive. Ven can feel a little sluggish, making some of the jumps hard to judge, and sometimes level geometry frustrates well-timed jumps. But accidental deaths are mostly kept to a minimum, at least at first, and you'll often be rewarded for turning your head to seek out hidden areas. At first you might worry it's a little too clean. The first of Ven's 3 regions, each comprised of 4 levels, can be beaten with your brain on autopilot, and I racked up over 60 extra lives before moving on to the next area. Trust me when I say though, the bill comes due. Towards the latter half of the campaign, Monologic steps things up, turning Ven into a much more challenging experience. It sways back and forth between rewarding and occasionally frustrating. Its final levels are pieced together by extended sections of brutally demanding level design, in which already tiny platforms spaced far apart disappear the second you land on them, and swinging axes and whack-a-mole saw blades demand split-second dexterity. You will die, again and again and again. So be prepared for it. Some will likely be put off by the sun requirement for immaculate timing and pinpoint precision, but the studio mostly does a decent job of keeping things fair. When it comes together, it is breathlessly exciting to play. That's not to say Ven wouldn't benefit from cutting the player a little slack though. 12 levels might not sound like a lot, but each is surprisingly long, taking anywhere from 15 to 30 minutes to conquer, and it's often a war of attrition to reach the finish line. Checkpoints are sparsely spaced, and the dated live system doesn't serve much purpose other than to infuriate when a game over simply boots you back to the start of the level. The developer could have cut almost every stage in half and split the campaign into 24 levels, and Ven likely would have been a better game for it. Engaging as this all is to play, Ven only rarely feels like it needed to be in VR though. You can fist bump your new friend and ruffle his hair, but there's never much effort paid to building a lasting relationship in the way you might with Quill as you play through Moss. Ven himself is little more than a silent vessel to get you from A to B, lacking much in the way of charisma and charm. Meanwhile, the vast majority of the campaign would be just as well served on a 2D screen with a controller as it is in a headset. There are fleeting attempts to capitalize on motion controllers, including a few sections in which you throw grenades or destroy missiles with swords, but they're mostly underdeveloped and never amount to much more than a novelty. One section in which you carry Ven in a flying cart just allowed me to straight up bypass a big section of the level. That miraculous spark of VR excitement does flicker when Ven runs right past your eyes or you discover a hidden passage right under your nose, but the platform isn't utilized as often or as effectively as you might hope, especially when actions take place so far away or at a weird angle that actually hinders how well you can play. It also occasionally takes its inspirations a little too literally. Some levels are carbon copies of settings and ideas from the original Crash, including a stage set on a rope bridge that works almost identically to the now infamous High Road Challenge. That's not to detract from the game's otherwise generous environmental variety though. Almost every level in Ven is themed differently and looks utterly delightful, from boxed-in construction grounds with a dizzying number of contraptions at work, to a futuristic lumberyard that makes brilliantly organic use of its setting. Monologic has done an incredible job of making each level distinct right down to individual soundtracks. Not bad for a 4 to 5 hour campaign from a new developer then, and that only lands you at roughly around the 50% complete mark. You can go back to collect every crate, find every hidden critter alongside the time trials, and there's also a chance to unlock bonus levels too. Ven might not be as robust as most traditional platformers, but there's definitely more content here than in most VR games too. Ven doesn't have the intimate connection of Moss nor the constant innovation of Astro Bot, but it stands its ground as a rock-solid platformer that serves up rewarding, if occasionally unbalanced, challenge. It is admittedly nice to have something to play inside VR that can lean back on the tried and true mechanics of a third-person platformer. While I can't help wishing Monologic had done more to justify why its familiar foundations had to be in a headset, I'd be lying if I didn't say I found its taxing campaign a Moorish treat. This is definitely a tightly contested genre, but there is space on the podium for Ven once you kick off Lucky's tail. Sorry, Lucky. Thanks so much for watching the video. Make sure to like, subscribe, and comment, hit the notifications button, and stick with UploadVR for plenty more VR gaming coverage. We've also got our winter wrap-up event going on all week with new reveals for Quest, PC VR, and PSVR titles, so check out our YouTube channel for much more exclusive content.